guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast, a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. And today we are happy to have one of our favorite co hosts with us, one of our most cultured and experienced podcast brothers, Sambaza, host and creator of the Sambaza podcast, who proudly hails from the Republic of Kenya. And he is a two-time nominee for Best African Diasporan Podcast. He also has been a presenter at the Afro and Audio Podcast Festival discussing Pan Africanism. Welcome, Sambaza.
Hey, welcome, Jen. It's nice to be back again. Remember, we took the week off, and I told you I had to go to New Orleans and
You
did some
did.
traveling.
How
Yeah,
did it
yeah.
go?
Oh, it was nice. I enjoyed myself. They were places that I visited. I went to actually Whitney Plantation, which was a slave house which had quite some history on it, and
Hmm.
we got to move around and see how it is. We did a boat tour, but I noticed you asked me a question in the morning regarding what these were because I don't know if you can see them here. There are
Okay.
a couple of those. So when you go to the Whitney Plantation, they'll give you this, and on the front, they have a name of a person who was at the plantation, a slave who was there, or name of a slave. I don't know if you can see that.
Hmm.
Well, like that. Okay, and then on the back, they have stories about them. So, like, I'll take for example the one that I have here is Mary. So they give you random ones. So this one is
Hmm.
Marianne John, Northwestern State University of Louisiana Watson Memorial Library is where they actually went and got this information from. At the age of 85 is when she wrote down and said, "I was 10 years old when peace was declared. What I knows I was born with. For never I went to school a day in whole life. I know A from B. One of my sisters was born right in the fields. They just dug two holes. She gets down in that hole and gives birth to the baby, and the baby just rolls out in the hole. Then the boss has someone to take the baby to the house and makes my ma get up and keep right on hoeing. Never will forget." So this is what she says, and it actually has the address here. It's 5099 Highway 18, Wallace, Louisiana.
Hmm.
www.whitneyplantation.org is where we went to. So they
And
give
how
you
many do you have there?
I have four because we were four of us, so each one
Okay.
got a piece as you walk along, and then you have to go and look at the history behind it.
Oh,
Very
wow.
interesting, worth going to if you have a chance to travel over there. And I think we're gonna visit some more because it does have a lot of history. Or
Definitely.
you when you want to go out there and learn your history, you might want to go there. One thing is there's a memorial too, which I can say is a bit harder for the kids, or if you're emotional, it kind of gets you emotional. So people did cry when we were there,
Hmm.
and but after that, I can say it was eye opening. I've never been to one before, and having to look at that in a different perspective, it gives me a whole meaning to remember. We talked about it last week when I was going there,
Hmm.
Black History Month and what people had to endure. There are more things we can talk about this, but I think it's not for today because today is March and we start off something else. And what about you?
Yeah, I'm glad that you got a chance to check out that plantation you were talking about going,
Hmm.
and that is really interesting. And I know I definitely would have gotten emotional wearing the names of a former slave, around my neck, being in this. I can just imagine what that might have been like for you. But I do want to acknowledge hey guys, we are doing this podcast live today. So, shout out to the ones who are checking this out in real time. Thank you for being here. We do have a couple of folks watching us live. So, thank you. We would appreciate any feedback you would like to share. So, shout out to the chat.
Like, comment, and subscribe, please, because we
Yeah.
need your comments to be able to know how we're doing and what the community is doing. Oh, I just forgot. I was supposed to invite somebody and it totally got me off. Okay, but we'll still go on.
That's,
Um,
yeah. So,
so yeah,
yeah, shout out to that. But Sambaza did mention that we are starting up a new mini series, if you will, in honor of International Women's Month. We have decided to take on the task of highlighting extraordinary stories, achievements, contributions of women from diverse cultures across the globe. So it may be an episode where we're discussing a phenomenal woman of extraordinary achievements, or we may bring someone in. So, we welcome you to join us on this journey as we celebrate International Women's Month for March. And we actually have a guest today. So, we're excited about that.
and what's the topic today, actually?
Yeah, so we will get into healthcare topics with our special guest, who is a healthcare professional. And so, like we mentioned, when we for this series, we will be touching on. Significant contributions that women have made, significant impacts in various fields, from activism to science, healthcare, business, the arts, a little bit of everything. So we're excited to take on health matters, as this is, a really important topic that concerns the Black experience and African Americans for sure.
All right, we cheated one
Yes.
week though. It was supposed to be four episodes. We cheated 1 week.
Yeah, we got a late start, but that's okay. If we have to, we'll
That's okay.
try to give as much as we can to you guys, but we appreciate you joining us on the journey. And shout out to Sambaza for being a willing participant in this series. We had the Black History Challenge, and we said, you know what? Why don't we take on International Women's Month too for March? So, yeah, we'll see what the rest of the year has to give you guys some great content. So, we would like to introduce our guests, if we could. Sambaza, are you ready?
Yeah, you drum
Okay.
roll. Do.
Okay. Do you want to give a brief introduction? And so we do have our fantastic, phenomenal healthcare professional from Dallas, Miss Tiffany B, will be joining us.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome. Hey,
Hi,
Tiffany.
thank you for having me.
Yes, please. And so, Tiffany, you are a healthcare professional. Please share about your experience in the healthcare industry.
Yeah, I've been a nurse for the last 23 years. I was actually sitting here counting when you were having you guys' this discussion. So
Wonderful.
it's been 23 years. I started off as a trauma nurse.
Mhm.
I have travel nursed. I have been a GI nurse, which is like colonoscopies, EGDs. I have been a dental nurse for pediatric patients. I've traveled multiple states, working in different emergency rooms. So I'm very well adapted to the unexpected. I like to work in organized chaos, pretty much.
Okay.
So,
Definitely. We appreciate you joining us for this conversation. I wanted to get into some topics that do concern African Americans that we experience a lot. And so, Simbaza, if you want to,
Oh yeah, I'll
yeah,
start us off. All right, Miss Tiffany, we have a question here. In your experience, what are the common health disparities or challenges that African American women face that may be widely known or understood?
well, women in general, especially African American women, we're kind of overlooked when we go into the hospitals for common illnesses that may have been caught by doctors dealing with the men, such as heart disease or diabetes. We go because our side effects look different than a man's side effects. We have more
hmm
subtle side effects. So when we go in and complain of maybe arm pain, not even arm pain, like maybe just scapular pain, whereas a man will go in and he'll complain about left arm pain and he have more of the classic signs of, say, heart disease. Women tend to not have those classic signs. So they tend to brush us off like, oh, just go and take ibuprofen or try to use muscle relaxants, you're stressed. Being that we are women and we tend to take over the family, we are like, even though the man is the head of the household, we tend to be the head of the family. We
Mhm.
are the caretakers, the nurturers of the family. So we tend to take care of everyone else, and we leave ourselves to the side before we go. It's usually more advanced. Our situations are more advanced. So we don't have self-care, number one, for African American women. We don't take
Mhm.
care of ourselves as much as we should. And when we do finally step out on a ledge and go and take care of ourselves, um, we tend to be pushed to the side, or our symptoms are trivialized by the
Mhm.
healthcare professional. So we have to be very astute about being an advocate for ourselves. We have to know, we have to do preventative care. So, that's one of the things that we don't do as African American women. We take care of everybody else because that's what it historically has been, and that's what it is now. So that's one of the major disparities in access to healthcare, also, because we again, it's a two-parent household because
Mhm.
we are
Mhm.
African American. We tend to have both parents in the house working, whereas our counterparts, they tend to have at-home moms. So when we both out working and we have to make a living for ourselves, again, we neglect our health, we neglect our own self-care. So I mean,
Mm.
that's one of the biggest reasons why, and we don't seek the care. And then when we do seek the care, our symptoms are trivialized and therefore missed.
Definitely, and that's a really good point. Want to get your take on maternal health. You hear so much about African American women experiencing higher mortality rates, maternal mortality rates, and like you said, our pain is often trivialized and things like that. Share in your experience. What changes could be made to address this issue. I mean, that's a big one to take on because there's a lot of things that play a part into why that rate is so high. you know
One reason that is so high is one, we the first thing we can do is be proactive,
Mhm.
um, and be intentional about the physicians that we choose.
Mm.
For instance, I gave birth twice. I have two kids, and I was intentional about the doctors that I chose. I chose African American females because a female is
Okay.
going to be more sympathetic to your complaints than the counterpart, the male doctor, because they know what you're going through. They're female as
Mm.
well. And when you
Okay.
choose an African American female, again, they're going to pay more attention most of the time to you. I can't say 100% of the time because, everything is, there's never a always and it's never a never, right? So,
True.
majority of the time, your African American doctors, if you can find them in your area, will be your best out. So be intentional about choosing your doctor. And even if you can't
Mm.
find an African American doctor, be intentional about choosing the doctor that you are going to see.
Mm.
Interview your doctor,
Yes.
interview them, ask questions, ask what their rate of delivery is, and what's their mortality rate.
Ooh.
How often, do you have complications? You can also look them up on health. Oof, it just slipped my mind. It's a website, and I will get it when it comes back to my mind. It just slipped my mind.
Oh
But
yeah.
you can look these doctors up. You can see their
Hmm.
health grades. It's called
Yeah.
healthgrades.com. You can look up your doctor and see how many lawsuits were filed against them. You can look up your
Hmm.
doctor to see what is the rate of mortality? How many complications has he had during his procedures? So you really want to be intentional about that. Two, you want to go to your doctor's appointments. You can't skip them. You can't skip them.
Hmm.
And with us, again, as I said, we don't do a lot of self-care. So when we do get pregnant, a great majority of the African American female population, we already have chronic illnesses.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that complicates your pregnancy already because you have chronic illnesses. And if you're young, because most of us, I mean, most professional women who are going to give birth to kids, or want to be married prior to um, conceiving and having children, we tend to wait a little bit longer.
Okay.
So your age is a little bit more advanced. So that would lead you to having more complications because a woman's
Right.
eggs are there from birth, you know. So it's not, they don't repopulate. You're born
Mm,
with them. So they're there with you. So as you age, your eggs age. So it lends to more complications the older you become. And
right.
like I have a friend who was 34 in advanced maternal age. You'll hear them call it AMA. Advanced maternal age is like
Mhm.
35. So between 35 is the cutoff, like the start of it. But when you're 32 and you're African American and you're 32 years old and it's your first kid, you have to again be very vocal about your concerns. Research your concerns because you should be having different types of tests. And for the most part, you don't know the questions to ask. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to be intentional about finding the information that you need to ask to ensure that you have a great experience. So it's not that African American women can't uh, deliver
Right.
or have kids and not have these complications. One is lack of knowledge on our part, on the African American woman part, lack of intentional, being intentional about finding your physician
Mm-hmm.
and the comorbidities because sometimes we just don't practice self-care.
Mm,
So we go into these pregnancies with comorbidities. And definitely the doctors overlook your symptoms when you go back to the hospital for any type of complication. You have to be an advocate for yourself.
Now, I have a
definitely.
question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, does the education disparity actually come up here? Because I think I've done a podcast and I've talked to women regarding older women, older African American women, and they say that when they used to go to the doctor, especially after that experiment, the Tuskegee experiment, they would go and when they ask questions, they would say, they would be wary of the white man doctor because those were the ones who were there for most of the time. And I think I also shared with you last month when you're talking about the black surgeons
Mm-hmm.
in out there who practice. Was it like almost less than 4% who are black women, which is now one of the things, the scarcity of black women that you'd want to
Mm,
get. And then Miss Tiffany said that you'd like to be more intentional and try to find out and look for your doctor. Now, my question with to you, Miss Tiffany, is now with education, is that where it all starts and the fear of receiving the wrong medication or the fear of the white man doctor? You can't trust the doctor.
mm,
I would say most of the time it's the opposite. We
Hmm.
trust too much.
mm,
We put our faith too much in the doctor because medicine is a cookbook, pretty much cookbook medicine, right? Everybody's going to get the same thing. You go in with a stomach pain, everybody's going to get the same thing. So the difference is the results. Once the first level exams are completed and the results are identified from the first level exams, that's when we start separating how treatment is going to go. But for the most part, you're going to all get the same care. And that's
mm-hmm.
what I said about being intentional in education, increasing your knowledge about whatever it is that whatever chronic illness or even maternal, being pregnant, you have to um, increase your knowledge of your current situation. So when the doctor tells you something, you just don't take it at face value. I'm not
Mm,
saying to go in and I'm not saying to go in and combat whatever the doctor is saying, but know what you are and know what you want before you go into the doctor's office. If you have to call someone who may be in the medical field and ask the questions, what questions should I ask? Because
mm-hmm.
most of the time we go into the doctor unprepared. We're not prepared to
Right.
be at the doctor. And when a doctor gives you the information, you're not really able to comprehend what is truly being said to you, or you just taking it for face value. This is your health.
Mm-hmm.
You control your health. Your doctor does not control your health. Just because they want to put you on 12 medications doesn't mean you have to be on 12 medications. You can
Mm,
always ask the question like, what's the least amount of medication I can be on until I can get my condition under control, such as diabetes? Do I really need
mm-hmm.
to be on insulin? Can I try diet and exercise first? What's the least invasive way to rectify my current situation? Those are questions that we can ask, but we never think that we have uh, we never think that we can ask the doctor questions or we can
Mhm.
dictate what
Mhm.
our treatment should be. We always just listen and comply, but that's not how it really should be. You should take control of your issues and ask the question, research them, ask the questions.
For sure. And Tiffany, that's a good point. I actually experienced that um recently when my mother health was failing. She's since passed, but during the time where we were basically in the hospital every day, you have to challenge the doctors, and sometimes it can
Hmm.
be intimidating to ask them these questions. Well, how come we can't do surgery? Well, how come, and then so you definitely don't be afraid to challenge or ask questions, because you know they are not expecting you to have questions, a lot of them. So yeah.
They tend to have overinflated egos.
Mm,
So, and especially if you get some, most of the time you'll get a mild-mannered doctor who would not mind answering your questions.
okay.
But for a great deal of them, they'll have a inflated ego, and it'll annoy them sometimes about asking questions. But it really should not deter you from asking those questions because you, again, are the controller of your healthcare. The
Right, and
doctor is
sometimes,
not.
for
And
sure,
I
and
got a
then
comment here,
mhm,
guys, from
yeah.
Kelly Talbert Thagard, and she says it's always great to have questions written down and make sure
Mm,
you understand your treatment plan prior to leaving the office or the hospital. You shouldn't be afraid to advocate for yourself, like what you just said.
mm,
We appreciate that comment, Miss Kelly.
yes. Definitely. And sometimes, like I mentioned, you have to advocate for a loved one or an elderly loved one. I have another episode where we're talking about advocating for our elderly. I actually had to be like the health POA. And so a lot of, big decisions and things I, necessarily wasn't prepared for, but I did try to, research and ask questions when I had a doctor. Just getting a doctor in front of you sometimes is a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, my next question is about chronic health conditions. Now, African American women often face a high rate of certain chronic conditions. Maybe you'll compound and tell us more about it. What preventive measures or lifestyle changes can contribute to better health outcomes? I know there's been this talk where women lose weight like less less faster than men do. Um, that has that's scientifically known, and does that also have an effect to that point?
That definitely has an effect to the point because if men, say you have a husband and wife team and a man, and you both are exercising and he's seeing results on the scale, or because we all like to identify our weight loss on the scale, and you're not, as a female, it may discourage you from being active. It may discourage you from going or trying. So yeah, that does play a factor to your last question. But one of the biggest preventative measures for African American women in chronic illnesses. Now, when I'm saying chronic illnesses, I'm talking about illnesses that can be prevented. Now, some people have high blood pressure, and that's just familiar. You can try to control it, but you may not be able to prevent it. And you may have
Right.
type 1 diabetes, which is something that you were born with. There's some things that you just cannot control. You can't prevent, but you can control them by different methods such as diet and exercise. But all of the diseases like type 2 diabetes,
Mhm.
hypertension caused by overweight, all of those things can be controlled by diet and lifestyle and choices. The number one thing are choices, making better choices, better dietary choices, better physical activity, increasing the physical activity in your life. Uh, choice is our choice to be healthy most of the time for African American women. But historically, you have to look at it. I heard you talking about the Whitney plantation. Historically, Black African Americans, we were given the worst of the worst to eat.
Mm,
So that's how we grew up. We grew up eating the worst of the worst. And for us, it was normal. When I was growing up, what was a Brussels sprout? I didn't eat a Brussels sprout. I don't think I
mhm.
even knew what a Brussels sprout was. It was peas and carrots for us, a corn, because those were the things that were one, less expensive, and two, accessible to me at that time. As I grew older, I chose to make different choices. And as we know better, we do better. And as
Mm.
we grow, we should learn to make better choices. We should learn to um, and implement exercise into our lives, because those are the things that will help our chronic illnesses dissipate. You know, medication is not something that you should take for your chronic illness. It's 100% diet. If you change your diet, you can usually eliminate your chronic illness.
Wow.
And what about access to the healthcare options? Women sort of in the on the backhand being dealt with, the access when you're trying to get to these healthcare centers, for advice on,
Mm.
let's say, giving birth, or even when you're falling sick and you're going to get treated preventive when you're doing the preventative measures. Are you able to get it easily as an African American woman than our other counterparts?
I would say access is there. Like if you live in a rural area, depending on which area you live in,
Mhm.
it may be difficult to access healthcare. And even when you access the healthcare, it depends on who's there to treat you. If they're going to treat you, if they're going to um, trivialize your illness.
Mhm.
You go in for chest pain and they give you ibuprofen and send you home and you had a major heart attack. They don't do all of the tests that they could do. And again, we are not knowledgeable. Most lay people are not knowledgeable of the questions to ask. They're not knowledgeable of the path that they should go. You know, like if you have someone in your family that is a medical professional or work in a hospital, even know somewhat about medicine or healthcare, it's best to take that person with you or to ask that person, because what
Mm.
happens is you go into the hospital and they overlook you as an African American woman. And I think we are the worst to be overlooked,
Mhm.
because we tend to not want to push that envelope. We tend to not want to complain. We don't want to be known as the angry Black woman in the
Mm.
hospital who's complaining.
Mhm.
Um, and they think nothing is wrong with you, or they feel they treat you as if nothing is wrong with you. But again, you need to be an advocate for yourself. You need to advocate. If you're not feeling well and you're at the hospital, don't let them discharge you.
Mm.
Don't let them discharge you. Don't agree if you're not feeling better. You know, because that's the number one thing. We don't push the envelope. And
Mhm.
with access to healthcare, we need to, again, education is all about education. It's there. Planned Parenthood, I know back in the day it was there, and now with the political climate that we have right now, I don't know
Mm.
how much longer it will be there. But that's a whole different topic. But with
Right.
access, there is access to healthcare. The question is, will we go and obtain the healthcare? Because we historically are a people who will wait to the last minute to seek treatment. I don't want
Mm.
to know. My chest hurt, but I don't want to know because, I'm afraid. I don't want to go to the
Right.
doctor because I'm afraid. We have to
Okay.
look past those fears, because by the time you go to the doctor, it's too late. Hypertension is called a silent killer for a reason. Because once it starts showing its head, it's too late. You already have whatever it is that it's going to cause. It's going to cause you to have congestive heart failure. But if you know that you have hypertension and you're not taking your medicine, we are the most non-compliant group of
Mm.
people that you could possibly imagine. You may know you have diabetes, but you're not going to change that diet. You know you have high blood pressure, but you're not going to take the medication. I don't take medication every day. I don't know what's in that medication, but what you do know is you have high blood pressure, and it's going to
Mm.
affect your life. And doctors are not going to tell you if you go to the hospital or someone forces you to go to the hospital. The first thing you say, I want to leave, they're going to give you a sheet of paper called an AMA. They're not going to tell you it means against medical advice.
Mhm.
They're going to tell you sign this AMA. But what that AMA is definitely telling you is that we are no longer responsible for you. If you walk out this hospital and fall out on the ground and stroke out because of your high blood pressure, that was your choice that you made. But do you really know the choice you made when you signed that paper? Because what you're thinking about is I have to go to work tomorrow. What you're thinking about is I have a game tomorrow, or I have a party to go to tomorrow. It's so many things we think about what we have to
Right.
do tomorrow, except what we need to do today for ourselves and for our
Wow.
health.
And I wanted to add this thing. I was listening over at NPR, which I tend to listen for on talk radio. They in 2020, doctors, black doctors, men and women, started advocating for an education as to how to treat African American uh, patients, because
Mhm.
they say that our way of getting treated is unique, and they have to understand us in order to be able to give us the correct medicine and not to overlook past what we're telling them. We have our own nuances when we go to the hospital. So there's something
Mhm.
being done about the new black doctors, and they're kind of changing the curriculum and to kind of change the way the doctors think about it. Even though they're still old doctors, it's going to take some time, but hopefully in the future things will be much better.
Yeah. That's a good point. Definitely. Oh my
Every
God.
culture, yeah, every culture have their own uniqueness, their
Hmm.
own style of treatment, or say their own way of explaining their symptoms. Every culture, you have the Hispanic culture. I've worked with multiple different cultures. You have to be able to work in a diverse environment in order to be in healthcare. And when you go into like in the rural areas, those doctors, they're not used to working in diverse facilities. They may have gone to school in a
Hmm.
diverse facility, but they're not used to treating. It's like a rural area that happened to have been populated with different cultures, and trying to have those teachers teach the kids is different. We all have different
Hmm.
complaints and a different way we explain them. And if they're not educated enough on those different cultures, they'll miss something.
Mm. That is really good information. We appreciate you sharing this. I had no idea. I just kind of went through a lot of healthcare matters, dealing with what my mother went through, and then some other family members too. Which you said about we wait to the last minute, and being that fear of the doctor really hits, because I know I even have experienced some of that fear, but it is so important to go to the doctor. People, we got to go to the doctor like we should, guys. I'm
You're right
glad you
about that. Yeah.
shared that.
Preventative care is the best care. Tertiary care is never. You're going to spend more money and more time treating a chronic illness tertiarily, which means, if for everybody who don't know what that is, it's like after the fact. You know,
Mm,
treating your chronic illness after the fact is going to cost you more time and more money. And time you can't get back, at least money you can get back. So when you're thinking about, should I go and get this colonoscopy? Should I go twice a year to the doctor to get my blood drawn? And that's another thing I want to point out, that most of us don't. We go to the doctor when we feel bad. That's not the time to really go to the doctor. I mean, like, that is like symptomatic treatment. The time to go to the doctor is for your annual physical. You should get your blood drawn at least once a year. If you're over 40, you should have an EKG at your doctor's office. You should have um, bone density if you're a woman. You should have a colonoscopy, woman or man, especially African American, because when something change, you need to know what normal is. Because
Okay.
if you're
And I have a
going to the
question here.
doctor and you don't know what normal is, then you won't know how long that's been there.
mhm.
And I have a question here from somebody online. Miss Betty Bird. She asks, "What tests should we as women get? Not me, but as women, right? Okay, okay. What tests should we as women get annually? Care to?
Annually, you should have a pap smear annually.
Okay.
And that's something that women do not do. They do not. And the number one form of cancer that is curable is cervical cancer. And we have a lot of our
Mhm.
people dying from cervical cancer because they don't go to the gynecologist for a pap smear or
Mhm.
a mammogram. Breast cancer, if it's caught early and it's detected early, it can be curable. It can be taken out when it's a small lump, but in order to identify if you have breast cancer, you would have to have that mammogram. Those are two, and then blood work. for females, and that's male and female. You should see your doctor, your primary care doctor, at least once a year for
Okay.
that blood work, for your initial blood work. And like I said, if you're over 40, at EKG.
Okay.
You should also get your vaccinations. I know one of the things was COVID. I'm not putting that in my body. I don't know what
Mm,
that is, but you know what? Every vaccination that we take, chickenpox, MMR, rubella, all of the vaccinations started the same way. There was an outbreak, there was a pandemic, a vaccination was made, and everybody was inoculated. Polio was a pandemic. Now we take polio shot vaccinations all the time, but that was a pandemic. My father had polio, and that was what, 60 years ago?
okay.
And now we take a polio shot without a problem. So now we have COVID-19 that came up. I'm not taking it. I don't know what it is. Oh, and they make up all of these crazy ideas about what it could be. But what it does is to prevent you from dying from a disease that is totally preventable. Just like the flu
Hmm.
shot, we have this misconception. I'm not taking a flu shot, it's going to make me have the flu. No, what it will do is make you a little bit sick because that's how your body build up immunity to
Mm,
the virus. Is
okay.
by making you a little bit sick. So your body can fight it off. So you can build up the antibodies to fight off the flu. Now, what does that mean? You're not going to get the flu? No, you will. Chances are you will get the flu, but it won't be as severe. So it's not a flu shot is not to say I'm not going to get the flu. It's so it won't be so severe because if you don't have a flu shot or you didn't get a flu shot and you got the flu,
Hmm.
that's a 7 to 14 day thing because the virus takes 7 days, at least 7 days to run its course.
Mm.
And you will feel horrible with high fevers and just achy all over. So it's
Okay. Well,
better preventative.
definitely. So you definitely recommend that people get the vaccinations and their flu shots, annually. Someone asked
Yes.
about annual. Like you said, a lot of these things are preventative with diet and exercise. So that's really key. It really is.
Yeah, it looks like number one thing is the diet and exercise. I got a
Hmm.
question again. What steps can be taken to access healthcare for African American women in the particular undeserved areas? The areas where there's no, like the hospitals, say the rural areas, and then those underdeserved areas where that people are less likely to go to the hospital or are not educated enough to feel that they need to go to the hospital and get themselves taken care of.
I would think community, one of the biggest things that we can do is to provide community education to those individuals because you can't force a person to seek healthcare. And like I stated, healthcare is available in most areas. You just have to seek the healthcare. And with the African American community, one, we're scared to seek it. We always go at the very last minute. Um, and again, it's already too advanced. Um, we put other priorities above our healthcare. So I think it's education, is 100% education in those underserved areas. Now, they may be far and few in between these particular locations for the healthcare. You may have a clinic that is not necessarily close enough to you. So your excuse is, I have to take 3 buses to get to the clinic, right? So I'm
Mm.
just not gonna go. But if it was a party 3 buses away, chances
Hmm.
are you gonna go. You
Uh,
know,
Hmm.
it
yeah,
depends on what's important to
That's
you.
true.
you're right
What's
about that.
That's
important?
true.
Is it your health care that's important? Because what's important, you make time for.
True. True.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. Somebody, anything else to add before we kind of wind
Yep.
down with
Then we
some
have
of
another
our?
question. I think about
Well, we
the COVID
touched
19.
on
We
we.
missed the COVID 19 one because I think COVID-19 is one of the most important ones. I think you have something to say about that or a question about that. Did you?
Well,
Yeah.
she did mention COVID-19, so just to
Uh-huh.
kind of piggyback on that or veggie back on that question, should we still be concerned about it? You mentioned that a lot of people had, preconceived notions about how can we encourage vaccination awareness.
One of the most interesting things that I found, I'm still working. I don't work in a hospital right now, thank God. I have left that arena. I work in insurance. So I was able to see how the COVID-19 um, vaccination came about, how we went from, as a country, how we went from zero treatment for this COVID-19 um, to adequate treatment. So now we do have adequate treatment for COVID-19. The only problem is no one wants to take the vaccine. Like,
Okay.
everybody took the first one, everybody took the second one, and I think they come out with one every year. It's just like the flu shot. It comes out every year. If you're a person who has a chronic illness such as diabetes or hypertension, you're at more of a risk
Okay.
than someone who doesn't have it. If you're overweight, and what we call overweight and what's considered overweight are two different things. If you're thick, because we like to say thick. If you're thick, then you're probably in that category of being overweight or obese. You have to know what your
Mm-hmm.
BMI is. You're at a higher risk for
Right.
complications of COVID-19. And right now, well, it's like just a virus. So you will get cold and flu viruses, and because there is a treatment for it, and because it's not as potent anymore, because of the different strand is not as potent, because it has been treated over the years, well, over the last couple of years. I don't think it's deadly to most of us anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but you still have a big population, especially African American and Hispanic Americans, with chronic illnesses, that you still have to be very careful about COVID-19. So I would say, yes, you still have to worry about it for that population. For other populations that don't fit the criteria for the as high risk, it will still make you sick. Yes, it's still a factor. It hasn't
For
gone away.
sure.
Yeah,
Right.
it's still a
Definitely.
factor.
Okay.
Okay. I'm glad you shared about that. Because that is
That was a lot
quite
of,
important.
yeah. One
Hmm.
last question. With all this happening around, uh, when you talk about women, this is actually focused on women, and
Hmm.
we were saying the woman is a champion, and us as the men of the household. Now I'm gonna try to champion for the men. What can we do to help out? Can we help out, or can we help you out in terms of when we go to when you in this time of need, in the, let's say your health is, it's not of the best. What can we do to help?
Mm.
Where can we play our part, or what part can we play, or what role can we play?
What role you can play?
Yes, even though we're the head of the house, what can we do?
Be supportive of your mate. Listen to them when they tell you they're not feeling well. If they're saying they're hurting, then
Hmm.
believe them. One of the things that women do well, especially African American women, I don't know, I don't think a race of women, I don't think any other race do it better than an African American woman, and that is work in spite of. We don't take sick days. We
Mm.
can be sick and still take care of the household as if we're not. So
Okay.
it makes our mate believe that, you're not feeling that bad because you got up and cooked. You're not feeling that bad because you took the kids to school. You're not feeling that bad, but we persevere. We are a strong people. We persevere. We're very resilient, especially the
Mm.
women, African American women. We cope with a lot, and we are the producers of our family, because most of the time, if we stop, the family stops. So we
Mm.
consistently move forward, right? So as
100%.
the man of the house, you should be in tune with your mate, and you should know, she's not right today. Let me assist more. Let me assist with the kids. Let me
Okay.
assist with the grocery shopping. Let me assist with the house. You should be proactive. Did you go to the doctor? Did you see your doctor? Should we call a doctor? You know? Can I get everyone should have over the counter meds at their home, right? You
Mhm.
should have the cough syrup, the ibuprofen, the Sudafed. It's allergy season right now. We should all have some type of Allegra
Okay.
Zyrtec or Allegra, Zyrtec, or ranitidine at your house, because I can't think Claritin. Claritin for that since it's not generic. We should all have this
All that
medication at home.
doctor stuff.
No, I'm just well, you ask what the men can do. The men
Right.
can take care of their women, let them see because we are strong and we will
Okay.
try to keep going. So the
Right.
biggest thing you can do is notice her and notice what she's going through. And if she says, if she says I'm not feeling well, ask her, hey babe, lay down. Go
Yeah.
go
Mhm.
relax. I have it. I'll take care of it.
In that respect, I did notice one time my mom had a toothache, and she actually got up and cooked for us, and we had a meal. And was my dad there? Yes, he could have helped, but yeah, it was one of those. I guess I can say the African thing, but yeah, thanks for letting us know what we can do as men and help out. Um, oh, by the way, we got two comments here. I'm gonna say, Ed Campbell said, "Peace, Jen. I am loving this conversation. I believe Black women are exhausted of having to be strong.
Mhm.
Black women are the definition of resilience." Thank you, Ed. And Betty
Definitely.
says, and daily vitamins also. I think it's regard to what you're saying about what the over-the-counter medicine that you should have daily. Thank you, Betty.
Yeah. I was just
Cal,
thinking.
yeah. Go
Mhm.
ahead. I'm sorry, Jen.
Oh no, yeah, I was just thinking of like immunity type of supplements, elderberry. What your thought is on colloidal silver, or if you don't recommend that?
I think everybody, especially women, should take a vitamin, and women should definitely take calcium because, especially if you're childbearing or you had kids, because children will drain your bones of the calcium. And as we get older, also will drain us of calcium. It also drains the calcium. So it's important that you replenish the calcium by taking calcium. And calcium is good with vitamin
Mm,
D. So you want to have calcium with vitamin D, along with a multivitamin.
okay.
Most African Americans, we are not in the sun. That's another thing. We're not in the sun as much. And especially since climate change and the sun is hotter than it was when in the 80s. So we tend to stay in the shade. We need to take the vitamin D because most of us have low vitamin D, and that is not a laboratory test. That is usually tested by the doctors. That's not one of the main ones.
Wow. That's really good information. Thank you for the
Yeah, you
comments,
dropped some gems
guys.
today.
I mean, I am just like excited because we got 11 people watching. This is excellent. Like, I'm
Thank you.
geeked. This is great.
Yeah, Jen, we this has been an eye opener for me. I thought I was like on the back burner all the time because the woman always does the whole thingy, and I think here, sitting here as the only man, y'all kind of dish it all out to me. But I appreciate having to get this information coming from
Definitely.
women, and then I think this month, starting off with healthcare, will kind of set us up to kind of figure out how it's going, as we are going throughout the year, and hopefully with where we're at in our community, they will be able to get some information from here, and hopefully somebody tells somebody else, and then that news spreads upon what they need to know and listen to. So guys, share, subscribe, and hit the like button so a lot of people can go ahead and listen to this particular segment and let the community know.
For sure. And also, be in tune with your health and your family, your loved ones, your elders. So be an advocate for yourself, as Miss Tiffany shared. So important. And I'm just really glad that okay, we have another comment.
All right. This is from Flo Elkins. She said, "What about natural healing?"
You know what? I am not an expert
Mhm.
on natural healing, but it's always best to do less chemicals and less invasive techniques. Every medication derived from some type of natural herb or natural plant.
Mm.
And when you combine a natural plant with all of these additives, um, that's where you have your complications and your side effects, right?
Mm.
So, one, the best thing is diet. If you control your diet and exercise, which is natural and holistic, you wouldn't be on all of the additional medication.
Okay.
And for those people who can't uh, eradicate their chronic illness, due to just familiar history, then you can try natural substances. I cannot give you any recommendations because I am not an expert on that, but I do believe that holistic healing, holistic medicine does play a part. Meditation plays a part. Migraines, meditation, quiet room. Um,
Mm,
And what about
different oils. Peppermint oil, from what I understand, peppermint oil can help with dizziness and nausea. They are different. You would
mm,
have to research those things, um, but they are beneficial and they do work.
does voodoo count?
Is
Oh,
that
that's
your
not me.
question?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Look here, I'm trying to go
I
back to the
have no
quiet
idea.
room. Go back to the quiet
No
room.
idea.
Look, that
Oh,
is
yeah.
excellent. Peppermint oil, quiet room. Yes,
Right.
Yeah.
So you know what? Self-care goes a long way.
Mhm.
Self-care goes a long way. And when you think about it, self-care, when you promote self-care, you promote awareness of yourself, an awareness of your health, and being aware of your health and taking control of your health and your healthcare journey will provide excellent results.
Can I get this
You know?
interesting comment? Sorry, from Ed. He says our medicine cabinet or the nearest hospital is located in our kitchen, which is like you said, diet is what we can control. Okay.
Mhm.
Diet. That's
Thank
that's the
you.
number one thing.
Yeah.
Diet is your number one, the things that you eat, the processed foods. Everything in America has sugar in it. Everything.
Mhm.
If you prepared your own foods from veggies, fresh vegetables, or freshly frozen vegetables, um, meats, if you're a meat eater, if you're vegan, one of the biggest issues I have with like non-meat eaters is that, they eat Beyond Burger. And for me, Beyond Burger is just something that tastes like meat with a
Okay.
lot of chemicals. So,
You hate on that
Mm.
um,
Beyond Burger. On
I'm
Beyond,
hating on Beyond Burger. It may be your sponsor one day, so
yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that.
sorry.
Right.
I'm just saying you have to be conscious of what you're putting in your body because what you
True.
put in is what you get out of it.
That's right.
These are
And that's
views
with
of
anything.
Miss Tiffany B, and not the views of Woke by Accident and Sambaza podcast. We shall continue.
Okay. Okay. So
Go,
we're
go ahead.
running tight on time.
Okay.
Anything else to share, Samasa, before we?
No, I'm ready for the next one. What do you have?
So, you mean the
The
next?
next segment.
Okay, so we'll share about that. It will be like we mentioned,
No,
one of the topics.
no, 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 no. You missing it. You missing it. You missing it. The pod deck.
Okay. Okay, so all right, so we do
Then we can
have
talk about. I think Miss Tiffany has to
brief
go.
briefly because we are under the gun.
Right.
Okay, so to wind down with Miss Tiffany, we do appreciate her so much for showing so many great nuggets of information and just words of wisdom to share with the community here. And we appreciate you guys for tuning in. But let's wind down with a question from our good sponsor at Poddex. So, what or who has made the biggest impression on your life in the last year?
Is that question aimed to me?
Yes, you're the one on
It
the
is.
hot
So
seat now.
we're one.
You know what? The biggest impression, I just finished today. I finished a leadership program with mindset strategies. It's for Black women. It's the Leadership for Black Women Institute. And they partnered me with a mentor, and we had a lot of sessions
Mhm.
of on empowerment and different techniques to use through leadership. And I would say over the last year, they have Chantel Fitzgerald is the leader of that particular institute. And through her tutelage and through all of the wonderful sponsors at Mindset Strategy, they have influenced me so much and empowered me to spread my wings and fly. So I am very grateful to Mindset Strategies. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to even tell everyone I graduated today. So
Oh, congratulations.
Congrats. Congratulations. Nice. And we have
Next
another
one.
comment.
Oh, Betty Bird is asking if this is going to be a series. I don't know if she's talking about this particular one or okay. So Betty, we are doing Women International Women Month, so we'll have different speakers coming up next week and the other week. Now, if you really want Miss Tiffany Bird to come back, we can make a request if she's available.
We could. And we can
Let
tailor
me say
this to what the
congratulations.
community is interested in. We can have a whole conversation about the healthcare system. Look what I had to go through in January. Good Lord. December and January. But yeah, I mean, so we can have a conversation about that if Miss Tiffany has,
Leave in the
available
comments. Leave it in the comments, and we'll talk about it.
availability. If we would like to have another conversation with Miss Tiffany, we can make that happen.
You want to add one more final question, or we're running out of time, and then we'll talk about
Okay, so
it.
really,
She has to. You have
one
to cook, right?
more.
You have to go
One.
cook, Miss Tiffany. Okay.
Let's see. So, one more wind down question. When you wake up in the morning, what is your number one priority?
Waking up in the morning, my number one prior. Usually because I'm so old, excuse the language, because I'm almost a half century. The restroom.
Okay. I understand.
That's the restroom. After giving thanks for just being alive, it's a mad dash to the bathroom.
Okay, amen to that too. But no, we really appreciate you being here. Congratulations with the mindset strategies. I can't believe that's like brand new information. Like that's the exclusive.
Yep.
Yeah, so happy for you on that.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed being a part of your show.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Anytime. You're welcome here anytime. And thank you all for joining us on this very special episode of Sambaza. We appreciate you as well. Dedicated to International Women's Month. We hope that today's conversation has inspired and enlightened you guys, shedding light on healthcare matters that concern the Black experience and really everyone's experience, the American experience. Healthcare is an American situation, not just African American matter. All right. Anything else to share, some buzz before we roll it on out?
Oh, what are we having next week? Oh, Betty's saying thank you for tackling an important issue. We appreciate that. What are
Wonderful.
we having next week, or who are we bringing next week? Do we have something, or what are we planning for the next 2 weeks? Maybe share some light.
So as we are, it's going to be something wonderful and exciting.
Okay.
We
Oh, you
are
want it to be a
speaking
secret?
with no, it's not necessarily a secret, but we are still trying to confirm schedules with a particular podcast, female
Sneak
pod.
peek. Okay, like what are we? What who are we thinking of? What are we? What the topic might be?
Okay, the timeline really.
Yeah.
I let you know that we're on a time, and I have to
Yeah,
play
we
my
got dripping in
outro.
black saying wow Sambaza. Just let him know that I did make it on time. He was worried.
You guys are awesome. We appreciate you so much, and we are going to see you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll actually be live next week. This went so well. I appreciate everyone. All right.
Thank you,
Thank you
Miss Tiffany.
guys.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Jen, and thank you
Thank
Have a
everybody for
good
you.
day.
showing up.
All right.
For somebody.